Okay, we'll be watching the red number 3. The orange number 1 just snagged out of the lineup. She appropriately waited for him downfield, and she actually went a little bit too far downfield to let him switch sides. She had him pretty close to the left sideline, uh, but she went downfield too far, so allowed him to switch back towards the middle of the field. But now that he's on this side of the field, she needs to connect with him and try to work him over towards the right sideline. So she's doing okay. She's connects a little forward of him, still working him towards the sideline. Since she started so far on the other side of the field, she only got him about to the middle, but that's still good. He's bounced it. He's got it in the end zone, and now she needs to try to keep working him toward the right side, not let him back to the middle. Stay between him and the goal, get as close as possible, and then crossways to a line from him to the goal. She's a little bit too farther back right now than she should be, but she's still in a pretty good position. So because she was kind of far back, he really had a pretty good angle on her and was forward enough of her that he should have been able to push her around to get a look at the goal, but he wasn't using his horse correctly. He had his horse's head turned toward the way he wanted to go, which didn't allow the horse's body to get up against our number 3's horse, so he was not able to push his way up and get a line to go. You can see she has her horse's head turned out, so she is more effective about getting her horse's body up against him, and she has held him now in that first attempt. And here she turns toward him, which I don't recommend. I would prefer that she would still be moving her horse, not having turned her horse at all yet, but moved her horse toward him sideways until he is about that far around, and then turn away from him. Because when she turns toward him, she is going to get behind, and so she's going to have to catch up. Maybe he'll take advantage of it, maybe he won't, but every time you turn toward them, you will get behind. So once again, it looks like she's going to try to turn toward him, which I still don't recommend. And she's in a good position if she would just stop and get sideways against him. If he completes his turn, she could just back up and she'd still have him stop. But it looks like she's going to try to turn toward him as he's trying to turn. And he's not even halfway around the turn yet. It's not time for her to be turning. If she would turn away, she would have more time to wait to make her turn. So she is turned toward him, and you can see how far behind she is right now. There's no reason why he couldn't continue his turn on up against and connect so forward of her that he could just control her all the way up to the goal, because she got behind by turning toward him. And now it looks like he's going to try and push on up against there, but with his horse's head turned to the left, he's not going to be able to push very effectively. She's a little behind now, but he may not even be able to push and make her bend, even though he has quite a bit of an advantage because he's in front, because it doesn't look like he's going to get his horse to be pushing very effectively. So he got her pushed pretty well. Well, she's in front now. He probably won't get her pushed any farther. because her horse is set up to push effectively and his is not. So that's probably as good of an angle. If he doesn't get the shot off like right now, he probably won't get it off. We'll see. Yep, he didn't quite make it. And now she's doing well, just staying up against him, forward of him where he can't bend her around, and between him and the goal as close as possible, right up against him. That's where she should be, and just maintain her position. And you actually don't have to work much. Don't make any moves that you don't have to make. And anyhow, so right at this part, once she stopped him, she's got him in pretty good shape. So she's still doing well. As he starts to turn, she should not start to turn, but as he starts to turn, just keep stepping towards him, not pushing against him, but just up next to him so there's no space between you and him until he gets halfway around. Then she should start her turn away. Or she could back up and catch him that way. She's still doing excellent. He hasn't actually started turn yet, and now he was actually that far around before and lost some of it, but he's maybe a quarter of the way around the turn. So she's still in a good place, right up next to him, not pushing hard on him and not bringing her horse over up against his. Her horse needs to be crossways to a line that runs from her to the goal, so she doesn't get out from between him and the goal. But she's in pretty much the perfect position right here. So she didn't start her turn, just like she's not supposed to, until he's halfway around, and he didn't continue his turn, which a lot of people just turn themselves out of the way. But all his maneuvering, everything he does, you should just make sure, as the three, that all his maneuverings just puts him closer and closer to the sideline. And he puts himself there. You don't have to push him. You just stay there where he can't get back to the middle of the field. And every time he turns and tries to maneuver at all, he just puts himself closer and closer to the sideline. She's still in an excellent position. And still doing just right. She doesn't have to push him. All she has to do is stand up against him. And all his maneuvering should just be getting him closer and closer to the sideline. There he was about to try to make a break turn towards the back of the field, and she's forward of him enough that she can easily prevent that. And as he turns away and tries to get a little bit of space, she's stepping up against him just like she's supposed to. So far she's doing excellent again. So here he's backing himself now closer to the sideline just like he's supposed to, and as he moves away, she keeps stepping towards him. That's excellent. Now when he's putting his head up into her body and over her horse, that's probably illegal, but she's still staying in the excellent position while he does that. And now, see, he's actually turned toward her, although it's pretty illegal, and she was able to block him just by backing up slightly. So she's still in that excellent position, and even though he made a turn, she was able to block him without having to work her horse anymore, just by staying in the position she was in, backing up a step or two, and stepping toward him. There she's trying to push. She doesn't even have to push. All she has to do is stand there. And looks like he's going to try to push directly over her. But she's, even though she didn't have to push against him, just stand next to him, she's still keeping herself in an excellent position. And there he he got over her. I wouldn't say it was legal, but he got over her. And now she turned away to try to pick him up. The only thing is, at this point, I would say she should already have her horse's head turned out to the right and start getting her horse's body up against him to connect forward of him slightly. Don't even let him back to the middle of the field. So now she had put her racket back as if she was thinking about swinging at her racket as he came over her back, which she shouldn't have done. I would recommend she had kept both hands on the reins even when he does get her racket close to her. And she got a little bit behind making that move turn to come back up against him, but she's still in pretty good shape. She should actually have her horse's head tilt a little bit to the right, but she is in a position where she can connect forward of him and keep him from getting any farther towards the middle of the field is what she should be trying to do. So she got a little bit behind, but he isn't even going to try to get past her. It looks like he's going to try to turn away. So as he starts to turn, she should be just stepping sideways toward him till he gets halfway around. Then she should start her turn away if he continues his turn. And there he's starting his turn. She still doesn't need to start her turn quite yet, but if he continues on, when he's about halfway around, she can start her turn and still should be able to get him back. Just connect with him and keep him over to this side of the field. So now he's a little over halfway around the turn. So she should be starting her turn, and she should have started it just a little bit before she did. Looks like her horse is throwing his head up in the air or something, but she can probably still get back in time to block him and not let him get any farther towards the middle of the field. And looks like he got an advantage where he could get up and get there. She hasn't let him connect with her forward. She's still trying to get forward and get forward of him to connect. So he's gained a little bit of ground, getting a little farther away from the sideline, but it looks like she still has a chance to stop him from continuing on and getting shot at the goal, but we'll see. So no, he's connected forward of her, and now he should be able to push and bend her enough where he can get a look at the goal, because she's connected now too far back. And he does get a look at the goal and gets a shot off.
Time is on. Dan Dude with the ball, heading down to his area. Dory's hard on it. He makes his bounce. Make this goal easy. He still has the ball in his area. He's got around now. Still close to that sideline. Drive.
Okay, we'll be watching the red 3 again. This is the orange 3 that is about to pick the ball up. Even though we're watching for the red 3, I just thought I'd say right at this time, anytime you, especially in the end zone where it's just two of you, anytime you don't know where the ball is, what you want to do is just get flat up against the opposing player and hold them up, and then look for the ball. The ball is right where the red player could probably get it, but she doesn't see it, doesn't know where it is, and because she isn't doing that thing that I say to do when you don't know where the ball is, she's letting the orange player maneuver around where the orange player is going to be able to go pick it up. So, sure enough, the orange player's got it, but we'll be looking for the red 3 in the end zone, and their job in the end zone begins as soon as the orange team gets the ball, and they've just got it. So you can see her marking up the 1 already in midfield. She's staying downfield of all the other players, and she started marking him up. What she's already done incorrectly is she's let him change sides. What you want to do is work him toward a sideline, and once you get him headed toward one sideline, just keep him working towards that sideline. So now she's in a position where she can push him toward the right sideline. So that's what she should be trying to do as he makes his way down the field. Just make him go farther, closer and closer towards the right sideline. And so far she's doing pretty well. She's staying slightly forward of him so she can control him, and not trying to keep him from getting downfield, but just moving him closer and closer to the sideline. And of course they're off the screen, so we don't know exactly what they're doing yet. And okay, they're back on the screen, and so she's got him fairly close to the sideline. She's in a good spot where she shouldn't need to put any more pressure on him. Just don't let him get back toward the middle of the field, and let him go on into the end zone if he wants to. And it looks like he's she let some space be between him and her, and he's able to jump forward and get some leverage on her to push her back towards the middle of the field. See how that develops. And the orange team still with the ball, moving it down the field. Her job is actually still the same, whether he's about to catch the pass or not. But since he made his way towards the middle of the field, now it looks like she started playing, at least for now, between the number 1 and the ball, which is not the way I recommend. But he is headed now towards the left sideline, so she should concentrate on keeping him on the left side of the field. So she's now getting more between him and the goal, and that's good, keeping him towards the sideline. Looks like he may be a little bit in front, like he may try to drive along that 30-yard line to get over to this other side of the field. But she's in a fairly good position, maybe just a half a step too far back. And she's still maintaining pretty well, getting to where she should have been a little bit farther forward of him, but she's being very effective at keeping him over to the side, except now, because she had gotten so far back, he thinks he can break along the 30 and come over to the middle of the field. But she had gotten a little bit too far behind him. And he was able to make a break there, but she was able to hold him close to that 30 where she actually pushed him back into the midfield. So he's decided to go back towards the left sideline again. So she should check back a little bit, let him go ahead and head towards that left side of the field, and stay between him and the goal and as close as she can to him. So I would have suggested checking back on him a little bit more, like about right there. Now she's too far back. But still not in a bad position, and the ball carrier has who was wanting to get a pass into the number 1 has lost that opportunity and is now going to have to circle around. So the orange number 1 is going to try to do some more maneuvering while the ball carrier gets set up for another attempt at a pass. So she's not keeping him toward the side enough, for me anyhow. In fact, now she's letting him get back to the middle. Now he's headed to the other side, and so now she needs to concentrate on keeping him toward the right side of the field. The position she's in right now, she's a little too far back. If he were to catch a pass while she's that far back, he could turn toward her and bend her very easily toward the goal, but she may recover here. We'll have to see. So they do get a pass to him, and our 3 is just a little bit far back, still not in a bad position, but she needs, since he is actually starting to turn left, she needs to go forward of him and then close the gap to keep him from turning left and getting a look at the goal. And it looks like she let him connect with her too far forward. She had space between him where if he tried to turn toward her, she could have turned away to prevent him from connecting with her before she was forward of him. And she didn't. Now he's connected quite a bit forward, and he shouldn't have trouble the way it is now of just bending her on around and getting a look and a shot at the goal. So I think they actually called crossing on him getting past her here.
And Rachel's going for it. Down. Rachel's got it. They're looking for a spot to bounce or toss. And she bounced it. Rachel's on her way down. Looking for number 1, taking her time. Get up there. That's her holding strong. Looking for a clean spot to get through. Past the Dan. Dory's on Dan. And she sees a spot. He's not open. Dan's waiting. And it's tossed and it's caught. Dan's got it.
Okay, we'll be watching the red 3 again. There's the orange 1 on the Palomino horse. And the red 3 had the ball carrier, I guess. So she stayed with them. Her teammate should have come up on the red 3 side, so the red 3 could have gone on downfield. But if you are holding the ball carrier as a 3, if you're holding the ball carrier in midfield as a 3, you should stay with them until you're relieved from somebody else or until they turn away from you. And she was going after the ball carrier, so I guess she's doing just like I would have told her to. And now the ball carrier becomes not the ball carrier anymore, so our 3 his job now is to stay downfield of all the orange players, meet up with the orange number 1 as soon as she can, and work him toward one side of the field. So it looks like she may be getting a little bit behind, and she's going to the player on the white horse tried to come towards her and slow her up a little bit more. So as the pass goes into the orange number 1, our red number 3 is slightly behind. And I can tell maybe he didn't catch the pass right off, but he's made a turn. I've given our 3 a chance to get in position. She's got him in a very good spot over right at the left side of the field, close to the corner of the 30. So she just needs to be working sideways to get right up against him and close that gap that she's got between her and the number 1. And there she's stepping toward him sideways. She connected a little far back. She should actually be trying to keep him from even getting towards this side of back toward the middle of the field. And she's staying more between him and the goal than I would recommend. But except for keeping him on that side of the field, she's still in a good position to keep him from getting to the goal. And you can see she's got her horse's head tilted out to the left, so her horse is very in a very good position to hold or push up against him. And she was in a very good position up against him, crossways to him in the goal, when he puts his horse's head into her and then across her horse. But she's still blocking him. Even if they don't call this penalty, she's still got him blocked. And she's still maintaining her position. I don't know why there hasn't been a whistle, but just maintaining that position is fine. She's holding a racket up like she wants to grab at a racket, but I would suggest that she keep both hands on the reins and just keep maneuvering her horse into the most advantageous position all the time until you have to reach up to catch the ball. I think they do finally call the penalty on him.
Danny! Come on, Robbie! Come on, Robbie!
Dan to come back. Backwards toss. Rachel's got it. Dan's open. Dan misses. He's got it off the bounce. Looking for a spot to get open. Dory's hold strong.
Okay, we're going to be watching the red number 3 again. The orange team is just picking up the ball there. And that's the red number 3, I think, closest to us on the dark horse. And I think the orange number 1 is right next to her. So she's already met up with the 1 and has the whole field. She's got him on the left side. So she should be trying to work him towards the left side of the field as he goes down towards the end zone. And she's doing pretty well. Now he's got his shoulder in front, so she gave up that good controlling position that she had. Now he's in control, and he's working his way towards the middle, maybe even trying to push her farther towards this side of the field so he'll have more room to work with because she's gotten too far back. If this had happened in real life, to me, at this time, what I would do is pull off of him a little bit to the right and run forward and then try to connect back forward of him. She's got 50 or 60 yards before they get to the 30-yard line to do that instead of just staying there stuck with him in control all the way down to the end zone. So he's in control now. Can't tell exactly what they're doing, of course, because they're off the screen. And okay, he's come back up to the middle. Now, as he comes back, it's okay to come back with him, but as long as she stays downfield of him and all the other players. But it's actually a bit better to be close to him, because if he gets the ball and then makes a break for it and has some momentum coming as he tries to pass you up, it's harder to connect with him. So if there aren't any other players that are liable to get between you and the goal, it would be better if she would be up here a little bit closer to him as he comes back up here, probably to try to get the ball and carry it in himself. But it's no problem either staying back. It's just if he's running with so momentum as he comes up to you, it's a little harder to connect with him. So she's staying downfield of all, look at him, and now she's decided to connect with him on the left. So she should just be trying to work him towards the left side of the field. She's in forward of him and not trying to prevent him from getting in the end zone. So it looks like she has gotten herself in the exact perfect position right here. And as he makes his way in the end zone, she's still holding him. Now, she's doing well here and about to make her first mistake. As he turns slightly away from her, she has ridden too far forward, and she's turning her horse's head as if she's going to want to turn toward him to come up against him. So I would have recommended not have moving so far forward, but have kept her horse facing the angle it's facing now, and stepping her horse toward his horse sideways until he is halfway around the turn, and then turn away from him. And looks like she's going to try to turn toward him. And turning toward him, or turning to the left with her horse's head to the left, she's liable to get her horse to turn on the front end, and you'll lose even more ground than just turning toward them. But we'll see how it works out. But you can see right now she's starting to turn left, and he's got his horse's head turning left, and both her horse's back feet are in the air, so he has all his weight on the front end right now as she's making this turn. So he's probably going to hop that back end farther away from the direction that she wants to end up going, but we'll see. The back end came around, and she did get behind. So right now she's in a position where she's about, or if she connected with him, she'd be connecting well behind his leg, and she would not necessarily have very good control of him. So if she had gotten into this position, anytime you turn toward them, you need to realize you're going to get behind, so you need to be planning to just lunge out and get forward after you turn toward them, because every time you turn toward them, you're going to get behind. So here she's behind slightly. She hasn't connected yet. I don't know if she's going to be able to pull her horse away from him and jump forward to connect or not. But she got behind because she turned toward him and because her horse was turning partially on the front end. So he's connected where he's in control now, and he doesn't have a problem pushing her right around to where he can just get a look at the goal and get a straight in shot.
Oh, Tessa misses. Rachel's got it, bounce it. They're both on her strong. They're taking their time. They're off.
Right, Rach. Why, Rachel? Why, Rachel?
We're gonna make a toss. Down.
Okay, we'll be watching the blue number 3, and that's her at the end, at the far left, and the number 1 that she's going to be guarding is carrying the ball, and she's let somebody else get in, an opposing player get downfield of her, so she started out way out of position and has now gotten, as she's trying to get up to the end zone, has allowed an opposing player to get between her and the end zone. So they've slowed her down a little bit, and now she's in the end zone and now waiting for the 1. And the 1 is coming in on her left side, and she's looking over her right shoulder. So I'm not sure if she didn't realize where the 1 was. But as the 1 is coming in on the left side, she should try to connect with the 1 and just keep her on the left side of the field. So I guess she must not have known where the 1 was, because she actually turned way over to the right. Now she's not in a bad position. The 1's in the end zone. She's in between her and the goal, and forward enough of her, so she just needs to be closing that gap without turning her horse, but start moving her horse sideways toward the 1, and then don't let the 1 get closer to the middle of the end zone. Keep her on that side. So she's kept the 1 from going straight in, and as the 1 turns away, our number 3 turns toward her, which I never recommend. But if she's turning toward her to make up a big gap, that's okay, as long as she is back crossways to the goal, at least by the time the number 1 turns and is crossways to the goal. So she's closing the gap a little bit. She slacked up just there and she was fairly close to the 3, but as the 3 moved further away, she slacked up and let the 3 get more distance between her, which she shouldn't have done. She should have continued up to the number 1 once she had the distance closed. She shouldn't allow it to be opened up again. But she has gotten turned crossways to the goal by the time the number 1 is turned crossways to the goal. She's just too far away from her right now, and should be continuously stepping sideways toward her to close the gap, rather than just standing still waiting for the 1 to do something. So she's staying off. She's had the opportunity to make her get closer, but as the 1 comes around, now she has closed the gap. Actually, the 1 did more of that. She's letting the 1 come to the middle of the field, maybe even to the other side of the end zone, which I don't recommend, but she has improved her position by getting closer to the number 1 and staying between her and the goal. So she's in a pretty good position there. She's turning a little bit early. Instead of starting to turn right there, she should just be maintaining her horse in the same direction that it was, and just stepping sideways toward the 1 until the 1 gets halfway around. But as long as the 1 continues her turn, she's probably still going to be okay. So the number 1 horse is turning kind of weird. Didn't really plant his butt. It was bouncing around with his back end. But it's caused our number 3 to not get so far ahead of the number 1 on the turn. So it's actually improved our number 3's position by the number 1 horse not turning very, very well. So here she makes a turn. She's staying off. She had an opportunity to get closer to her, but it was close enough to make the number 1 turn away. So she's got another opportunity now to or she stopped the 1 on this opportunity, and the 1's going to make a turn and try something else. and it looks like our number 3 is going to be turning toward her rather than side passing toward her and then turning away. So number 3 is going toward her again, hopefully close the gap. As long as she gets her horse crossways to the goal, by the time the 1 is crossways to the goal, she's okay. And you don't have to turn toward them to close that gap, but if you do turn toward them to close the gap, make sure you're actually gaining some advantage by closing the gap and not being out of position once the 1 gets turned around. So here she has the opportunity to close the gap again. She's doing pretty good. She didn't close it as much as she could have, but as the 1 is coming back and is crossways to the goal, our number 3 is almost crossways to the goal, and she's got a kind of a far distance between them, and so our number 3 needs to be closing that gap without changing the direction of her own horse. So she should get her own horse crossways to the goal and start moving sideways to close the gap and get up against the number 1. So she kind of closed the gap a little bit. Looks like not much as she could have, but she's in a fairly good position here. There is too much of a gap between them, so the 1 has a chance here to turn toward the number 3 and kind of go around the back. And as we tell the number 1s what to do, the time to do that would be like right now, when the number 3 is committed all the way to the right, would be to turn left when you turn toward them and go toward the left. And as she settles down, our number 3 is staying in a good position. Looks like the number 1 didn't take that opportunity to cut around behind. And our number 3 is still between her and the goal, and still blocking and still in relatively strong position. Okay. The 1 had kind of gotten in a weird position where she turned, and our number 3 really didn't even have to turn, was already in a position to be against her, except the number 3 is steering her horse slightly away from the 1 rather than getting right up against her, in order for the number 3 to swing at the 1's racket, which I would not recommend. I'd recommend keeping both hands on reins and bringing the number 3's horse right up against the number 1, even if it traps the racket between them. Forget about swinging at the racket. Just position your horse and keep both hands on the reins until it's time to reach up and try to catch the ball after it's been thrown. And when she thought about swinging at the racket, not only did she not get her horse over to the left up against the number 1s, she also held back and didn't get forward of the number 1. So just because she tried to go for the racket, she got out of position enough where the number 1 is going to have a chance to throw in front of her and get a throw at the goal. And sure enough, she does get the throw and makes that goal. So after the 1 made that turn where the 3 really got behind when she went for the racket. Once she went for the racket, actually shouldn't have gone for the racket anyhow, but if she did, that's when she got behind. Instead of following her after that, if she had turned and run directly toward the goal, she would have had a better chance of interfering with the pass than following behind the number 1 and swinging at a racket.
They missed. Mary has the ball from Australia. Taking her time, looking for her partner. She bounces. She's in. Cat is Cat is pushing on her real good. Strong. Cat is not letting her through that goal.
Okay, we're going to be watching the blue number 3. The black number 1 just snagged it in the lineup. And our 3 is turned to run down the field. But you look, the way she turned, she was completely on the left side of the lineup. And her horse turned on the front end, so his front feet stayed on the left side of the lineup. And the back feet went 3 feet onto the other side of the lineup, away from the direction that she wants to go. So she's lost some ground right there, but she's pointed in a good position, and turning like that kind of early and taking off towards your goal when the ball is snagged in the front is about the only way to guarantee that the number 1 won't just beat you down to the end zone. At least you have a chance. If you are already turning out and start running towards the goal as they snag it around the front, you have a pretty good chance of getting in front of them and making them get past you to get the goal. So she's a little bit behind, but she's gaining ground. Now when she's connected, she connected a little bit late, but she did connect forward, so that's a good thing. And she needs to be working her over to the right side of the field. So our 3 was connected fairly well forward. She didn't do much pushing. You notice she's pulling her horse's head into the other horse rather than away. So her horse is not very effective about moving the other horse over at all. But the number 1 didn't collect her bounce right away, so she's going to have another chance to get to do some more maneuvering for the 1 to get past her anyhow. And she's turning toward her again, and as long as she gets crossways and tries to close the gap and gets crossways by the time the 1 is crossways, that's still okay. Still not the way I recommend to do it, but it's still okay as long as she gets crossways by the time the 1 is crossways to the goal. So the 1 is crossways to the goal, and the 3 is fairly well crossways to the goal. She should continue trying to close that gap without changing her horse's direction, keeping the horse crossways to the goal, but moving sideways up against the number 1. And she's staying a little farther off than she needs to, but she's close enough that the number 1 shouldn't be able to turn toward her. She's trying to turn toward her, which this should not be allowed, but our 3 was close enough to where if the 1's going to turn toward her, she'll be committed on penalty. If it doesn't get called, you have to keep playing. So it doesn't look like they're going to be calling that. And our 3 still isn't in a bad position. If she just turns around on her horse's hind end and now picks up the 1 on the other side, she should still be in a pretty good position. Her horse stepped a little bit away. And as she's getting over here, she's got her horse's head turned toward the number 1 rather than turning the horse's head away so the horse could bring his body up against the 1. So she's leaving too much of a space between them because of the way she's turning her horse. And the 1 is going to cut back to the other side since she has plenty of room to turn toward the 3, which, of course, you wouldn't have wanted that to happen. And in the meantime, our 3 has gone too far forward also, besides being too far away from her. She's gotten too far forward, so right at this instant she's not between the 1 and the goal. And looks like she's going to be able to recover and get back in a good position, except she's coming over with her racket first. If she would just position her horse, she'd be a lot better off, because as she comes over with her racket, she is keeping her horse away and will be tending to be concentrating too far back on the horse and not to stop the horse. So if she doesn't get the ball out of the racket on a swing, which you almost never do, she has not blocked them from getting up to the goal. So she stopped that immediate deal. And here, she should have been stepping her horse sideways to that number one instead of backing over, turning around, and turning her horse toward the number one. But she just stayed between her and the goal, so that's a good thing. She's pretty close to him. And so she hasn't done poorly, but she didn't do it the most efficient way. So now the one is turned back the other way, and our number 3 is turning away. That's correct. She has not turned early. She may actually be turning just a little bit late, but you can see how even starting this late, she still should be able to beat the one on a turn. The 3s so often think they need to turn so fast and so early that a lot of times they turn themselves right out of the number 1's way. And she didn't actually beat her on the turn, but I think she interfered with the ball. I don't know if she made it or not, but she did get her at least the racket on the ball before it went to the post.
Now off to the goal. She's got the bounce. She misses the bounce. Oh, she's got it back up. The 3 is not going to let her get by this time. Playing smart. She tricks her and...
Okay, we'll be watching the blue number 3 again. This time the black number 3 snagged the ball. She took a swing or two at the racket, which, since she had her stopped, that was okay, but she shouldn't have been there to do that. The only reason she was able to swing at that racket is because she had not turned her horse early, and she should have turned her horse early. But now she's turned back down the field and to meet up with the number 1 like she's supposed to do. So she wants to meet up with the number 1 a little bit forward. The 1's on her right side, so she wants to be working the 1 toward the right side of the field. They lob it over to the right side, so that should help our 3 get the 1 over that direction. She just needs to stay close and not let the number 1 get any closer to the middle of the field. So once again, she's going toward her as the 1 is going away. The 1 is going away. The 1 gets crossways to goal. Our number 3 is not quite crossways to goal, but she's pretty close and not in a bad position yet. And here she's staying a little bit farther off than she needs to be, and she's actually almost get enough space where the 1 could switch sides and turn toward her and go to the other side, because she started our number 3 started her turn early. She should still be facing crossways to the goal and stepping toward the number 1, and the number 1 wouldn't have been able to make the turn and face the goal like she's doing now. And she's not closing the gap and continuing to move her horse toward the 1. The 1 was just kind of stopped and prancing around, which gives the 3 an opportunity to improve their position, and she really didn't improve her position any. So the 3's in good position now, except here she actually started turning toward the 1 before the 1 started to turn away, and those few steps, instead of starting to turn even toward her, she'd have been better off taking a couple steps sideways toward the number 3. Once she's turned completely away, if you want to turn toward her and close the gap, that's okay, as long as you get turned back by the time they're turned back. So she's maintaining between her and the goal. She could be a little closer, but as long as she continues to try to close that gap, she's doing good. So these last couple moves, our number 3 has done a pretty good job. So she got close enough to her that the 1 could not turn toward her. That's a good thing. The bad thing is now our number 3 is starting to turn too early. I don't know if it's going to make any difference, but she shouldn't be starting to turn yet. She should be maintaining her horse crossways to the goal and up against the number 1. Now, the 1 went ahead and made the turn, and once again, our 3 goes to meet her, and on this turn again, she did this on the one before where they shot at the goal, but on this one, when you're turning to meet them, you want to turn way more than 180 degrees so you can connect up with them before they get forward of you. She came around and didn't come around any more than 180 degrees, and if she had, she could have closed the gap and been closer to the number 1. So once again, our 3 turns toward her, which I don't recommend. And now the 3 is crossways to the goal. I mean, the 1 is crossways to the goal, and our 3 is crossways to the goal. So she was okay to head toward her and recovered in time to mark her up, but she needs to continue trying to close that gap. So the 3's still keeping in a very good position, right up against her, a little bit forward, and crossways to the goal. And as the 1 is maneuvering, she maneuvers. When the 1 turns, she did not turn early, but she's getting back there. You can see here, when she turned, she didn't come around 180 degrees. She came less than that and started running forward. So when her horse starts running, she's actually running away from her. Now, if she thought she had lost the 1 on this shot, she should continue running even more to her right and go right to the goal. But if she had thought she still had a chance of getting up there and blocking her, she should have turned more and be heading her horse more toward the number 1. And once again, she goes for a shot. And as the 1 was winding up for a shot, our 3 was bringing her racket up and around rather than driving her horse with both hands up into the number 1. Or if she thought she had lost it, she could have been heading toward the goal and try to snag the ball later. She may have gotten her racket on this one too. It's pretty close. But she got behind because she didn't make enough of a turn when she made that last turn and jump out.
UK Australia got it right off the bat. They're fighting to the end zone, looking for their 1. They passed to nobody. The 1 has got the ball. Looking for a spot to get to that goal. The 3 is not letting her get by. Taking their time, looking for the hole, and she's off. And she shoots. No. That 3 is not going to let her get by this time.
Okay, this will be the last play, and we'll be watching the blue, the blue 3. The black 3 has it in the opposing end zone now, so the blue 3's out here in midfield. and the blue 3 should be keeping downfield of all the other players and meeting up with the 1, keeping her on one side of the field as they move down the field. So we'll try to watch and see how the 3 does. The 1 is now making a break for it, and the 3 is behind right now. And I guess our 3 is trying to catch up, but one of the black players is trying to slow her down, but 3 is still behind, and it looks like is going to be behind all the way in. And so the 1 just got the ball in the end zone. Our 3 is behind. She's going to go straight in. And on this one, we don't have the real the live speed play. So that's the end of this one.